the Quilting Book pressing tools. I have brought you all over to my giant ironing board and ginormous wool mat. This is one of the most important tools in ensuring I have perfect seams, my pressing tools. So I happen to have a giant wool mat on top of my ironing board. I think this is 20 by 58. It is ginormous. I used it in particular when I was long arming to press a whole quilt. Now, a wool mat is an excellent tool to have because it heats from both the underside and, of course, with your iron from the top. It retains the heat, and so it's going to lock that heat in on that seam. So having a wool mat is an excellent choice. But of course, any standard ironing board will work. And I'm actually going to show you guys how to make your own pressing mat that you can use at home or for travel. If you have a small sewing space, it rolls up out of the way, which is great. Other items that you might want to have on hand to help you in your pressing are going to be items like this spray. This is Magic Quilting and Crafting Spray. It's a starch spray. There's also just pressing sprays. A starch spray does have a certain amount of starch in it, and you can look up, there is a cheater way to make really cheap starch spray at home with some cheap vodka and some distilled water. It works just as well, and your seams will be flat as a pancake. Of course, one of the most important items, this iron is not hot, one of the most important items in your sewing and pressing arsenal is going to be your iron. Again, I love Tula products, and this is just so gosh darn cute. Look at the bottom, it says please don't feed the fish. So cute. This is an Oliso Pro iron. So it has a special mechanism in it that when I grip the top of it, the iron seals itself down to my pieces, and then when I let go, it pops itself back up, so there's no chance of anything, including my ironing board, getting scorched. It gets very, very hot. It has a lot of different settings. I also have the mini version of this. Now this is, as the name implies, a pricey iron. It's a Pro Series iron. It comes at a cost, but I had a Black & Decker before this from good old Target. It worked great. A fantastic place to get an iron is actually your local hardware store, or see if you can thrift one from your local thrift store. But you definitely want an iron that gets very, very hot, particularly one that has a cotton setting. It's the hottest setting on an iron. You'll also want to invest in a tailor's clapper, particularly once you get to piecing that has very precise seams and you need everything to lay very, very flat. We'll talk later about pressing your seams to the light, to the dark, or open. And particularly when I am, when I am pressing my seams open, I really like to have a clapper on hand. This one also happens to have a seam bar covered in wool on it. And when you're garment sewing or bag making, it's really nice to have this essentially mini tailor's ham right on your clapper. Now there are other styles of tailor's clapper. This happens to be my one from Modern American Vintage. It is both a clapper and a spool holder all in one. You just need a piece of wood that has some heft to it. Have a dad, a husband, a wife hanging out with the lumber in the garage, steal a little piece of their lumber. This little guy we're gonna get to later. It is a stiletto, but it's also a pressing tool. This happens to be one of my favorite ones. I also have a stiletto by Annie and a Tula one, but this is a 4-in-1 tool, and one of those tools, this is an Alex Anderson tool, is a pressing tool. So I really like that, particularly when I'm foundation paper piecing or English paper piecing, to have this nice little end to give things a zhuzh when I don't want to go to the iron. Another time, when I don't want to go to the iron, I use this handy dandy little tool. Now this probably looks to some of you like a wallpaper roller, but it is in fact a seam roller, and it has a specific curve on this wooden edge to help press your seams without heat, without the use of an iron. When we foundation paper piece, it's really, really handy to have one of these in your pressing arsenal. Thank you for joining me for our pressing tools. Next video is going to be other important quilting and sewing tools. I'll see you there.